think this is a great time to reflect. And in my reflection, I thought about what advice would I give my younger self, right? Because I'm a woman of a certain age. And what advice would I give my 20-something-year-old self? And what advice did I just recently give my 25-year-old daughter? All right, so I got my notes here, so, as always, forgive me. But the advice I gave to my 25-year-old daughter when she asked me this super awesome question, she asked me, when did you find yourself? And I was like, oh, that's such a cool question, because I've been thinking about what advice I would give my 20-some-year-old self. And so, here you go, baby. So, one of the things I talked to my super awesome, beautiful daughter, who just turned 25 in December, was that I was never lost, right? That's something that I learned, obviously, much later, unfortunately. But the reality is that I was never actually lost. When I was in college, I kind of had this thing where, I want to find myself. And it's kind of a thing in college, I think, where people are, trying to figure themselves out and all of that. But what I realized probably like in my late 30s, but definitely early 40s, is that I was never lost. And so what I told my daughter is that you're actually not lost. You are in the process of figuring yourself out, but you're always with yourself. You're always never far, right? Even in a spiritual context, we are source. We are God. We are the creation, right? And we are creators. We're never not with ourselves. And it's a farce. It's a lie in a lot of ways to think that you're lost, right? And it may feel lost because, honestly, my 20s, I was confused as if, okay? Granted, I was pretty grounded in a lot of ways, but there was so much going on in my head that, it was tough, but when I finally realized that I wasn't lost, right? And I never really was. And I think some of that is not embracing, who we are. The second thing that I talked to my daughter about was really allowing people the space to be themselves, right? First of all, we have to allow ourselves to be ourselves. We need to give space for us and also give space for other people to be who they are. I realized that not giving space for other people to be who they are, one, really shows that either we don't trust ourselves or we don't trust them to show us who they really are. And really, knowing who someone really is early is best, right? We sometimes put people in our own bubbles, but really we need to allow them to have the space to be themselves, so then that way they can show us who they are, good, bad, or indifferent. And we should be allowing ourselves to take up the space, give ourselves space to be who we are, the good, the bad, and all in between. So it was kind of cool to talk to her about that. And then this one, this one took me a while. Okay. Silent expectation creates issues, right? Silent expectations create issues. So, man, I've got a bazillion examples of my silent expectations creating issues for myself. And, unspoken expectations leads to misunderstandings and sometimes unnecessary conflicts. And when I was in my 20s, I really thought that, people should be mind readers. You should know. You should just know, right? But that is craziness. It really is. It's just craziness. I know that there might be some people who still believe that, and that's totally fine, right? But for me, I definitely think that we have to be really careful for, we have to be careful about it, because we have to be brave enough to explore within ourselves what we expect of ourselves and others, but we also need to really give people the space to be themselves, right? It all kind of connects in a way. And then this one was something that I learned just kind of recently to some extent as I've gone on a really big love journey. And that's forgive yourself early and often. When we don't show up the way we should, or we don't even know, maybe there's blind spots. I had a lot of those. And I've discovered a lot of awesome things in that. But when we don't show up the way we want, or when something happens, we make a decision, or something happens, someone says something to us, whatever it is, right? Forgiving early and often, especially forgiving ourselves, forgiving, mistrusting ourselves, right? Or not making the right decision, forgiving that early, right? Instead of keeping the shame, the guilt, the pressure, the resentment that we get and build up for ourselves and others is just like so important. And that helps us move on. It helps us get out of a guilt cycle and a shame cycle that really doesn't serve us anyway, right? So I was just talking to her and giving her this in our kitchen, right? Just hanging out on a Sunday, just basically saying, baby, like it's tough, right? Where you are right now at 25, but the sooner you get some of these things, hopefully the easier the journey will be for her, right? For any of us. So I'm just going to go over them really quickly because, why not? I love a good recap. 1, you were never lost. 2, allow people the space to be themselves. That's so important, especially with family and friends and stuff, right? Silent expectations creates issues. How that goes, about for you, you never know, but it can create issues. And forgive ourselves early and often, right? Harboring unforgiveness toward ourselves for things that we didn't know or should have known, or we say this, that, or the other, we're really harsh on ourselves sometimes. It's important to just let that shit go quick, fast, and hurry. So in conclusion, that's what I would tell my 20-some-year-old self too, is that, let's get these things together. And of course, culminating all that with love, right? Loving ourselves, really developing a habit of talking to ourselves in a kind way, the way you would want someone to talk to you, the way you would want to talk to a child or someone who you really, really love, right? Talk to ourselves that way. I think that's really important. So my Shea shareable for today is, and I'm looking at it because y'all don't expect me to remember all of this, right? That'd be crazy. So remember, we are never truly lost. We're always with ourselves. The journey is really about remembering who we really are and embracing that every day. I'm in my remembering journey of who I really am and really aligning with source and love and God. And it's really a lot sometimes, but it's all very beautiful and I'm very thankful for it all. So the noshable for today, because I'm just something to chew on, I ate already, but something to chew on reflectively is in what ways can we give ourselves permission to just be, rather than always trying to find something outside of us? Because that's kind of like that whole lost thing. Like, what are you looking for? You're looking for you. We're just looking for ourselves, right? But really, there's no need, because we're here. And we are the best that we can be at every moment that we are. I know that sounds weird. I'm going to go into that one day because I figured something out that I think is really kind of helpful. At least help me. Second question, second noshable. How can we practice letting people in our lives show up as they are, including ourselves? And what silent expectations are we holding on to, or might be holding on to, that we can start voicing now to create more clarity and understanding for ourselves and others? Kind of important. All these things are cool and all that stuff, but I'm just sharing, and I hope you understand, take what resonates and, share it with others. And if it doesn't resonate, it's all good. Come back again. That's it. Have a good one.